Alrighty guys, Azek here, bringing you guys another Dragon Ball Legends ToP guide video. This is going to be for Season 29, so for last season, we actually ended off in the top 3,000, which is still pretty good for me, right? I know a lot of people, they want to go for the higher scores, they want to go for the top 1,000, even for the top 100, but for me personally, I just want to get into the top 25%, that way I can secure that juicy 1000 CC, right? So the first thing that we will get into is our pathing, but before we do that, there will always be timestamps in the description down below, that way you guys can get where you guys need to go. Alright, so looking at this path right here, I already looked at the board and stuff like that. I don't think this path is too difficult, especially the first 5 fights are going to be extremely easy for us right here. As always, the circled fights are definitely the most impactful fights, right? Those are the fights that you want to bring in all your Z tier units. That's where you're going to have the fights that yield the most points right here, right? And then, like I always say too, this is a loosely based path. It's more so the circled fights are definitely where I always end up wanting to be at. Those are like my end points right there. But everything in between, like just the regular path, it is subject to change, just because due to just how weak my units are, or if I end up seeing more of an advantageous fight or something like that, right? So do keep that in mind. So now when it comes to map awareness, androids are absolutely everywhere. I think this team pops up more than Sun Family during this one. Actually, I want to say that there's like less than 5 Sun Family fights in our exact path. So looking at these androids, they legit have like a 50-50 split of greens and reds right here in majority of these fights, right? There's always going to be 3 reds, there's always going to be 3 greens, right? Meaning that you should bring in a dedicated blue and a dedicated purple, right? Maybe even 2 of each. I'm not too sure, but at least 1 of each. At the very least, you need 1 blue and 1 purple for these kinds of fights right here, right? Because like I said before, it's literally 3 of each. And the way you should tackle this fight, how you should prioritize it, is Red 18. Red 18 and Super 13 I think should be the first priority, right? Because 18 will heal and debuff your squad, and then Super 13 will super attack on turn 3, right? And then so I think the last unit you want to tackle here is this Green 16, right? Just because he does give death buffs. And also you do have to watch out for his self-destruct, right? Because he can get that once he reaches a certain amount of HP threshold. You don't want to get hit by that. Other than that though, there's a lot of annoying tactics on this team right here, right? Because that 16, he does have a cover change that isn't relying on any kind of HP threshold. He can just go ahead and cover change on a blast card. And then 17, he can eat a blast card. And then Super 13, he has a strike cover change. So this fight can be a little tedious, as well as that first one himself being able to heal on turn 3. So if you guys can kind of just work with that, I think you guys can still get through this fight pretty easily. So of course Sun Family is still being relevant here, but I am noticing that a lot of these Sun Family fights are either missing transforming Super Saiyan Goten or the Super Saiyan movie Gohan, which is absolutely huge for us as the players, right? Because that's literally like a missing puzzle piece to finish the entire puzzle right there, right? And because when you look at this, like this fight specifically, it doesn't have that Gohan right there, right? So he can't tank all of your hits on turn 1. Right, that's huge because you can just take out Goten on turn 1 and not worry about him. You can take out everything just kind of goes in there nice and easily. You don't really have to worry about the key restore speed aspect right here, right? Because usually that would be the answer. If you are going against the transforming Goten and that Super Saiyan Gohan on the same turn or in the same fight on the same team, you have to rely on your key restore speed. You have to have units that can attack before they can attack. But now that you're missing one or the other in some of these fights, you don't really have to worry about that too much. But still, just giving you guys the info, just checking all of our boxes right here. In this fight specifically, you would want to get Goten out of the way first, right? And then the Kaioken Goku, just because of the fact that those are your super attacking units. And then maybe the support with this Red 13, or with the Red 18, the Great Saiyan. I mean, it still has a lot of support, right? Because Red 18 can still put debuffs, he can heal. Great Saiyaman 1 and 2, I believe they have debuffs and support for the team. And then Nappa, he has debuffs. And then this Gohan, he has a buff against Regeneration, which is always bad for me and for those of you who are also using Regeneration. And then there's just one more fight that I want to talk about. It's on the 10th win bonus stage that I am definitely going to be attacking. This is the stage I want to land on. Is just be aware that the transforming Kaioken Goku, he can super attack on turn 2. And the full power Frieza will super attack if you hit them with a blast card. Right, so the way I would go about this is I would take out the Kaioken Goku first, the transforming one, and then I would take out the Frieza. You might want to just swap all of your blast-based units to strike attack specifically for this fight, but it is up to you. Alright, so now let's go ahead and get into new characters. The first character that we will be talking about is Ultra Instinct Goku, the MUI Goku, right? So let's go into this blind right here, immediately go into top stats, display maximum stats right here. So he's at 14 stars. The key restore speed is not bad. 2,459, that can go up a significant amount just because he's not a friendship rank 10 or anything like that. Let's go ahead and look at, he does have a blue card and an ultimate card that can't, so the blue card can get transformed into the ultimate card, right? With the yellow tiles. And let's see the abilities. Yeah, you can already tell that this is going to be a lot of stuff. So 90% to damage inflicted, 30% to strike damage inflicted, plus 20% to key recovery. That's a whole 20%. That's usually it'll just give you a number like plus 20, but this says 20%. Then plus 20% to special move gauge charge rate, and applies the buff effect, nullifies abnormal conditions twice, and at the end of the first turn cancels attribute downgrades. This is like two passives in one right here already. I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. And then the second one, before receiving a strike or blast arts attack, health is 30% or lower for allies in range. You do perform a cover change. I mean, it's nice. It's nice. I mean, these health, I mean, this is more so relevant as you're facing MUI on the field, not when you're using him, right? Because realistically, your units aren't going to be that low in HP at all times at 30% or lower, and that's, if you are, then you're in a really bad position right there, right? The best cover changes are the ones that aren't restricted by health cost, right? And then after that, after activating evade action, self, and then for his other ability, before receiving a strike or blast arts card, he activates the evade action, and evades an attack, activates once. And after evading, he activates counter and inflicts damage to the enemy. Are you kidding me, bro? The damage from this attack cannot cause the enemy to be defeated. That's really good. Honestly, that's a really good passive. It's just like his PvP passive, right? And after activating evade, you get minus 15% to damage received. And at the end of turn, 4 enemies or less remaining to self, you get 10% to special move gauge, activates once, and you upgrade your special move arts, activates once. So meaning that you don't even need to be on a yellow tile for this guy to get his ultimate off. That's pretty crazy. I would say he's pretty good. God Key is still in a rough position, and then plus you basically only have 1 season to use this guy, because after 1 season, I do expect to see him on some family teams, right? But after 1 season, these kind of units just fall to oblivion in terms of tiers, right? All right, next we have transforming Vegeta, the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, right? So let's go ahead and look at him going into a blind. All right, so we'll go ahead and show his details, ToP stats, display maximum stats once again. And the key restore speed is pretty rough. Pre-transformation, again, this is at friendship rank 1. Let's see after transformation. What is the shoot up? 2,545 is not bad. I would say that's not bad at all. Look at his arts. He only has the blue card, no ultimate or anything like that. It makes sense. And then for his abilities right here, so soaring power level, started the first turn at 60% damage inflicted, minus 20% to damage received, minus 10% to damage received. And at the end of the second turn, he gets his transformation off. He transforms into Super Saiyan Blue, 20% to damage inflicted, plus 90 to key recovery, and plus 10% to special move gauge. I mean, I think he takes too long to transform. Right, that's at the end of turn 2, so you'll go into turn 3 with Super Saiyan Blue. So for the first 2 turns, you're just going to be a regular Super Saiyan, which is, I mean, that's kind of bad for your key recovery, I think. And then his second ability is before receiving a special move, arts attack, self, minus 10% to damage received, and that activates twice. I think that's kind of bad as well. I think that's, once again, this is an ability more so that's going to be annoying when you're fighting this guy, not when you're using this guy, right? Because when you play ToP, you're doing everything in your power to avoid special move arts attacks, right? And so if you're successfully doing that, you'll realistically not use this passive at all. After receiving an attack, allies in range 10% to damage inflicted. After receiving an attack, own health is 60% or below. Restores health by 2% and 10% to special move gauge. I mean, he does a lot of stuff, right? We can't give that to him. He does a lot of stuff. I think he's alright, but I think there are some wasted passives in here as well. Alright, next we have Vegito Blue, and although he's not a new character, he just received a new Zenkai, so let's go ahead and take a look at that right here. ToP stats, display maximum stats, so we can see Zenkai level 7 and all that good stuff, right? He's only at friendship rank 5 right here. The key restore speed is great. 2,633, and that can still go up, keep in mind. I think that's actually really good. He does possess the ultimate arts, and look, let's see the abilities now. So start of the turn, 50% to damage inflicted, 25% to minus 25% to damage received, and plus 90 to key recovery. So he's going to be attacking extremely early. Like, he's probably going to be one of the fastest attackers on your team. And then on Strike Guard's hit, you have a 20% chance to follow up with the Strike Guard's attack. That effect is followed. I don't think that changed. Maybe some of these percentages right here, but that one didn't change at all. And then his secondary ability before receiving a Blast Arts attack, health is 30% or lower. Allies in range perform a cover change and nullifies attack. He's already had that. Once again, one of those abilities that is locked behind HP threshold, which is kind of rough. But he has a buff against Fusion Warrior, 20% to damage inflicted, right? And at the start of the second turn, he activates his green card, which inflicts attribute downgrade plus 20% to damage received for 2 turns, inflicts attribute downgrade minus 30% to key recovery for 2 turns, and inflicts attribute downgrade minus 50% to health restoration for 2 turns. So what you're going to want to do is you might want to actually like target this guy first, right? Because that's a lot of debuffs. And he can, if you can kill him before the second turn, unless there's a higher priority target, I think that'll be beneficial for you. Overall, I think he's all right. I mean, he's going to be really good with the Zenkai stats, I think, right? I think that's pretty much the best thing about the Zenkai right here is that he's going to be getting the Zenkai stats and he has really good key recovery. All right, so next we have Yurin, right? Pog. Let's go ahead and look at hers. Going into this blind, once again, display maximum stats. I want to look at the key recovery. 2,600 for an EX unit is pretty damn good. That is pretty damn good. Has just the regular blue card, only 1 passive. That's a lot of debuffs that we can already see on the right-hand side. Started the first turn, multi-target, 70% to own damage inflicted, minus 20% to own damage received, applies buff effects, nullifies abnormal conditions once to self, inflicts enemies in range with attribute downgrade, minus 30% to health restoration, and inflicts them with 15% to damage received. That's a good little radius too, I would say. That's a very good radius. Started the third turn, you activate your special action, multi-target, where you get 30% to your own special move gauge, 20% to damage inflicted, and inflicts enemies in range with attribute downgrade minus 30% to health restoration for 2 turns. Okay, honestly, that's not bad. I would say she's alright, right? But it's an EX unit. I don't see her going crazy on a majority of these teams, and plus you do need the stars in this game mode. Alright, so next we have EX Kale. So let's go ahead and take a look at her. Same thing, ToP stats, maximum stats right here. What's the key restores? 2,700? That's insane. That's at friendship rank 1. That's crazy. Has the regular blue card, only 1 passive, and is a buffer. Okay, so started the battle, allies in range, plus 10% to damage inflicted. I don't think that's bad at all. And started the turn per allied episode, Universal Survival Saga, Rival Universe, or Girls. You get plus 5% to damage inflicted for 1 turn and minus 5% to damage received for 1 turn. And at the end of the turn, allies in range restores health by 2%, activates twice, and plus 15% to damage inflicted by ally tag rival universe or tag girls for 1 turn. Whoa, hold on. This Kale actually might make these teams relevant. Like rival universe girls. This team actually might be viable because of this unit right here. This is what they needed. This is definitely what Rival Universe needed, right? Was a healer, because Vados was not the healer for that squad. But now we have this Kale. If you have a high amount of stars on Kale and you end up using her, let me know in the comments down below, because she actually looks phenomenal. Alright, now moving on to the free-to-plays, right? We only got 3 more of these units left, and it was a lot because it is anniversary, right? Let's look at the ToP stats, maximum stats right here. Friendship rank 5, by the way. Let's see, the key restore speed, 2,277. That's so bad. That is so bad. Regular Kamehameha. Let's see the abilities right here. 50% to damage inflicted, minus 20% to damage received, and plus 100 to key recovery. I mean, is that going to make all... I mean, that would be immediately 2,377. Plus friendship rank 10. Maybe increase that a little bit more. I don't think it's enough still. At the start of turn, according to number of enemies remaining, allies in range. If there's 6 enemies, you get 20% to damage inflicted. If there's 5 enemies, 15% to damage inflicted. Or 4 enemies, you get 10% to damage inflicted. It's all, I mean, that's alright, I suppose. And then the secondary ability, 15% to own damage inflicted for 1 turn, 10% to own special move gauge, charge rate for 1 turn, 5% to own special move gauge, period, and cancels enemies buff effects, activates twice. Is that to every enemy? It says multi-target right there, so I'm not too sure. But, I mean, that key restore speed is definitely a deal breaker for me on this guy, I think. Alright, so next we have Krillin. Hopefully his key restore speed isn't as bad as the Goku counterpart. Let's display maximum stats. He's at friendship rank 5. 2,400 is still kind of rough. I mean, he still has room to grow with an extra 5 to friendship rank, right? Once he gets to friendship rank 10. But he has a regular blue card. Once again, he doesn't have any ultimate, right? He gets 50% to damage inflicted, 30% to -30% to damage received, and plus 50 to key recovery. Okay, that mitigates it a lot better than the purple Goku, right? And on special move arts hits, he inflicts heavy bleed for 2 turns and inflicts can't attack for 1 turn. That's actually pretty good. Let me see, what was this ability? After receiving an attack for self, he restores health by 3%, activates twice, plus 15% to damage inflicted, activates twice, and plus 5% to special move gauge. And it doesn't have a restriction on that, so that I think that's every time he receives an attack. That's actually really good. And according to battle turn, multi-target, first turn applies buff effect, nullifies attributes, downgrades 2 times to allies in range. Second turn plus 20% to special move damage inflicted by allies in range. And third turn plus 20% to own damage inflicted and 30% to special move gauge. Nah, this Krillin is cracked. This Krillin is actually pretty good, man. I do have to say, this Krillin is really, really nice. Alright, so last but not least, we have Tien. So let's see what he got right here. ToP stats, once again, display maximum stats. See what he got right here. 2,400. Once again, these free-to-play key restore speeds are not really hitting for me right now. Has a regular blue card. Let's see the passives. 50% to damage inflicted, minus 15% to damage received, and 20% to blast damage inflicted for 2 turns cannot be cancelled. Okay. And on blast arts hit self, he restores health by 1%. And plus 20% to blast damage inflicted for 2 turns, and 20% to special move damage inflicted for 2 turns, activates once. And at the start of the second turn, you activate your green card, which is your solar flare, and you inflict enemy with can't attack for 1 turn, and 100% to own special move gauge? Are you serious? Are you kidding me, dude? Nah, this Tien's cracked. The Tien and the Krillin just absolutely blow the free-to-play Goku out of the water right here, bro. These guys are moving, man. These guys are actually really good. Alright, so going into our best teams right here, this is going to be an honorable mention. I actually think this team could have a lot of potential right here within the Universal Survival Saga team, because we just took a look at Krillin, we just took a look at Tien, and the fact that this Tien, not only does he inflict enemy with can attack for 1 turn, but upon activating that, he gets 100% to a special move gauge, so he's like a sniper in a way right there, right? Plus with this Krillin actually buffing the special move damage for allies in range, that could actually be huge, right? Plus he also heals himself, and then you also have the brand new healer for this team with this KO. I feel this team having a lot of synergy together, especially with Topo. Topo being one of those units that absorbs all the attacks on turn 1, right? He applies the buff effect, enemies focus on this character for 1 turn, and so you have a safety net for your KO, for your healer. Right, and vice versa, they have like a symbiotic relationship in terms of where Kale's going to constantly be healing him as well, right? And then even if you need some extra defenses for the EX Kale, you have this Kale who has a strike cover change that does not get dictated by an HP threshold, where this just before receiving a strike arts attack, allies in range, you perform a cover change no matter what HP you're at. So I feel like this team actually has a ton of potential right here that we have yet to tap into. The only thing being is that their key restore speed across the board looks pretty difficult, looks pretty rough overall, right? And then even when you dip into S tier, this is where MUI resides, right? I thought he was in Z tier. I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. I thought he was in Z tier, but it looks like he is in S tier already right off rip. His key restore speed isn't necessarily the greatest either. Obviously, that can be alleviated a little bit with the friendship rank stuff, and then he also gets 20% to key recovery, so maybe it's a lot more higher than I think. But I think once the key recovery issue gets fixed right here, I think this team could be extremely good. Could be extremely dominant. Alright, so now going back to our top teams, the Regeneration, the team that we're going to be using right here, right? Legends Limited Piccolo and Legends Road Piccolo are now both back in Z tier. That's huge, right? That's huge. That literally, that's mad, because the amount of points that we're going to be getting is going to be substantially increased from last season, where they're both kind of riding the bench in S tier, right? And I will also be using Janemba as per usual. Like I said, you do want some blues on here, you do want some purples on here. And the purple my go-to purple for this team is definitely that Janemba right there, right? I like that Janemba a lot. You can even see on the right-hand side, this guy also has Janemba on his squad as well as his only purple. But if you feel a little bit more comfortable with 2, then I do recommend just dipping into S tier and picking up this purple 21. The only downside about her is just the fact that her key restore speed is so awful, even after transforming 2,300, and it stays at 2,300, right? That's my biggest gripe with her overall, but still a very very, very solid unit. Other than that, most of your units are in Z tier though. Look at this. Most of your units are in Z tier right here. Everyone except for that fat boo. One thing that I did want to mention though is that over here on the right hand side, I'm seeing this Regeneration team specifically get a lot more popularity. Is this Regeneration matched up with the transforming Kaioken Goku, right? The blue one, the Zenkai one. Because when we look at him at his stats, the Ki restore speed isn't all too hot, but once he transforms, which is very early on, it jumps all the way up to 2,764. Also, keep in mind this guy gets a guaranteed blue card right at the end of the second turn. He gets 100% to special move gauge, so at the beginning of turn 3, that's when he activates it, right? And I'm seeing a lot of people include this man in the Regeneration teams. I think once this guy gets included in the USTR shop, I am going to try this out. I do want to try this Regeneration team out and see just how much more effective it is, because obviously this guy is ranked 36. He's getting through these teams effortlessly, right? He's getting through these fights effortlessly, and I'm sure it's because of the help of that, having so many super attacks right here, right? Because he has 3 of them. He has the Buu Tank super, he has the Kaioken Goku super, he has the Legends Limited Piccolo super, and then, you know, all that good stuff right there. So I'm interested in trying out this team right here. So if you guys, once he does come into the USTR shop, I will make an announcement. I'll let him marinate in there for like the first, like for 2 USTR resets, and then we'll try this out. Alright, so the next team that we're going to be looking at is LOE, and honestly, I think this team is going to be the best team this season, right? This team is already so damn good on its own, and remember how, like I said earlier, is that you do want some blues, you do want some purples, and already look at the purples that this squad has to offer right here, both Chilled and the LF Purple Frieza, and just look at their Ki restore speed. I just want you guys to look at that real quick. LF Purple Frieza boasting 3,000 Ki restore speed, and then Chilled boasting 2,700, so you know your purples are going to easily be able to just melt down a green unit right off rip, whenever the case may be. Right, and not only that, not only do you have some of the highest Ki restore purples in the game, it's literally an entire Z tier build right here. Right, all of these units are in Z tier right here. I don't think they have any other units in these other tiers right here. Just the hero units, right? And those don't even really count. You have all of these units in Z tier just chilling right here, and not only that, just the synergy overall, right? And the only difference between my team and this guy on the right hand side is that I have this Frieza instead of the Cooler, because Cooler only buffs the tiles to the left and to the right of him, while this guy, he buffs the entire board, but only for Frieza Force. That's the only thing, right? So Chill doesn't count on there, Coolers don't count on there, just the Friezas themselves, but still an entire board buff is actually massive. And this Frieza just being a revival unit, also being the designated healer, right, restores health by 2%, activates twice for Frieza Force or Lineage of Evil, as well as buffing the Ki recovery, dude. Like, that's absolutely crazy. The synergy here is nuts. Not only that, but you have blue card generation right here. You also have 2 units, not 1, but 2 units that can inflict can attack. This purple Frieza, right, at the start of the first turn, he activates special action, inflicts can attack for 1 turn. And then this red Frieza, where at the start of the first turn, he inflicts enemy with can attack. So that's... You have damage mitigation, you have healing, you have blue cards, you have Ki restore speed. I think this is going to be the best team for the season. This, in some people's eyes, this actually might be the better team than Sun Family as well. Alright, for the next team we have is, of course, Sun Family, right? Sun Family is still one of the best teams in the game, if not the best team in the game. And now you can run MUI on it for a season before he gets dropped off into oblivion, right? But MUI, obviously this is what this guy right here on the right hand side, that's what he's doing. But the MUI, he does not buff Sun Family, and also he is only in S tier, right? He doesn't get to start off straight into Z tier right here. So this is personally how I would run it right here. I would just run it with the Great Saiyaman, the Gohan, the Goten, like the healer. You have the healer right here, like you're good. You're good to go, just like this, man. Like, I could confidently tell you guys that even though all of my units on this team aren't friendship rank 10, I could go into ToP with this team and probably get top 1000 with this team right here. Right, I probably wouldn't even need equips. That's how good this team is. But ultimately, all Z tier, right? All Z tier, and the Ki restore speed is so good here, man. Look at the Ki restore speed, right? And you might look at Goten and the transforming Kaioken Goku and be like, well, they're kind of low. Look at after transformation, jumps up to 2,600, right, for him, and then look at him after transformation, jumps up to 2,700, right? Who's going to be attacking you first, man? Seriously, it's kind of absurd. Alright, for the next thing that we're going to be talking about is androids, and finally, some of the Android 21s are back in Z tier, namely this free-to-play Red 21 and this Green 21, right? The Sparking Android 21 Good, right? And so if you're going to run both of those units, you might as well, I would just recommend bringing all of them honestly, this team feels pretty free to play friendly, I would say, right? Especially with the majority of these Zenkais either being free or obtainable through the USTR shop, right? All of them right here, right? Because Blue 21 is free, Purple 21 was Battle Gauntlet, Super 13 was Battle Gauntlet, and then 16 and the 17 are both in the USTR shop right now, right? So you are dipping into S tier for the other 21s, and the reason why I recommend all the 21s to be ran together is because the synergy that this Blue 21 provides. When you look at her ability right here, you get specific buffs based on what tag you possess, right? You get 15% to special move gauge for androids, you get 30% to key recovery, or you get plus 30 to key recovery for regeneration, you get plus 20% to damage inflicted for girls, and you get health. Restore health by 2% for transforming warrior. And you know who has all of those tags? The other 21s, right? The 21s have all of those tags. So she's literally like the glue that holds down the 21s together. This is kind of how I would run it. You can switch these back and forth at will, but you kind of have two healers right here, right? So you know that this Blue 21 is going to be healing the other 21s, and then this red 18 just heals whoever in those two slots, right? The diagonals on the left and to the right right there. And I am a fan of the Zenkai 16 just because he has the indiscriminate cover change right here, right? Where before receiving a blast arts attack, performs a cover change at minus 60% to damage received, right? And he's always going to be covering that red 18 in this slot or in this slot right here. As long as he's in directly just a diagonal right there, he'll always cover that 18. And, you know, I think this is going to be a really safe team right here. Maybe not the best team in terms of points because you do have two S tier units on here, but I definitely think it's going to be one of the safest teams. Alright, so for the next thing that we're going to be talking about is Sagas from the movies. So I feel like this team has really come into their place here, especially since the Sun family teams are not running too rampant this season. Those teams specifically where you need tons and tons of key restore speed, right? Plus, Great Saiyaman 1 and 2 have really solidified their place right here, just due to them having pretty good support as well as amazing key restore speed, and now also like just boasting the key boasting the Zenkai stats overall, right? Also having the ultimate is really, really nice. Not only that, but they are also a Zenkai buffer for Sagas from the movies, which does include this Bojack, this transforming Bojack. I do like both of the Bojacks right here because they can each get a super attack on turn 2, right? So I think this team is just extremely solid, and even if he wanted to slide down here and get Gamma 2, pick up Gamma 2, he's also technically a healer, right? He only heals on the third turn by 2% for allies in range, but I still think that's pretty noteworthy, right? It's still solid to mention right here. I think this team is extremely good and will easily get you into the top 25%. With that being said, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this guide video. And as always, these are just my recommendations, right? There's still other teams that can definitely compete, that can still definitely get into the 25%. Like teams that I did not mention for this video was I would say GT. Right, GT is always very solid. I know people have been running GT literally since season 1 and have never missed out on their 1000cc, so that's still very, very solid right there as well. But I'm just going kind of just based off the meta, based off of the board and stuff like that, and based off what teams are performing the best in terms of the leaderboard as well. That being said, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns related to ToP, definitely let me know in the comments down below. And if you guys see someone with a question that you possibly may have the answer to, definitely reach out to them, help them out and stuff like that, right? We are the community, we are involved in this, and even though the anniversary has been somewhat of a slodge fest, right, we do still need to get this CC, we need to get this bread, all of that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys leave a like and maybe even consider hitting subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much. Later!